Well, I had a wonderful experience a few days ago, yesterday in fact. We met a lady named Fern. Now she's not Messianic, but she has a Jersey cow or some sort of cow out the backyard, or a few of them, and she produces milk for people, and they get fresh milk, the good stuff, not homogenized, not anything, just the fat of the land with all that nice cream on top. And she had a lady come to her doorstep that she went through some stuff, and basically she couldn't afford to pay for the milk at that time. And Fern gave it away for free, and the next week as well. And I just think that's wonderful. Now here's somebody that's a prepper. She was a prepper, Christian prepper, and they could produce their own food. But she was looking out for a neighbour. And there are some preppers that don't. And so I just counsel them to not be selfish, to be wise, but not selfish. Because we're to love our neighbour as ourselves, and that's part of Torah as well. So I believe that a nation divided will fall. So what does that mean? As Messianics, we need to come together. We need to not forsake assembling of ourselves as the manner of some is. We need to get over our differences in love. And that will get us through if we can look after each other. If we're divided amongst ourselves, now there's going to be people disagreeing with each and every one of us. Are we praying for them? Are we holding them up before the Father? Are we loving them anyway? There's hope. When we've got a community of people like that are willing to lay down their lives for their brothers, that's something worth fighting for. But if the sheep are pushing with their horns and knocking each other apart, then is that something that I want to lay down my life to defend? And I can tell you, no, it's not. But I'll gladly lay down my life. I pray that I live, but I'd gladly lay down my life if there's something worth defending. So please, Father, help us to get it together as congregations, as families. We know that the devil's trying to wreck everything, but a lot of it is also just the hardness of our own hearts. Because we can, we will. Because I can go, well, that's what you think, and storm off. That's not this right spirit. Save that for the battlefield. But a greater battle is just looking after each other. We've got to have something worth defending and something holding on to. I believe that when trouble comes to this country, we've got to start looking after each other a lot more than we're already doing. And that's where we're going to see the congregation of Yah, what's called the church in English, but what's the adat, the kahal. That's when we'll see it shining the way it ought to, when we're loving on one another. And if we're already divided, we're not going to make it. If we're divided, we won't make it. It's that simple. All right. So we read that after the harvest, the tares are burnt up, as I've mentioned before. The Lord hath made all things for himself, yea, even the wicked for the day of evil. That's this generation, especially amongst the young people. Don't want to know God. It's okay. Your day's coming. And that's how serious this is. That sounds mean. If you've got kids, pray for them, because there's a remnant that the Lord has chosen that are going to make it through. They're living fish that are going against the stream. All the other young people are going the other way. They're going upstream to spawn. They're going upstream because there's hope. So for their sakes, God will save a remnant and start again. He can cut off a generation. If there's wickedness, he can cut off a generation to the bone and start again. It doesn't take long to start a forest from a single seed. So we've got to look after those seeds, and they will grow. I believe there's hope, but there's also judgment. So the Lord of glory, once he's gathered in the wheat, is going to cut off that evil generation. And this very thing that we're afraid of may actually save us, because it helps us to come together and we begin to fear Yahweh, and that is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. So that's something that's terribly missing in our congregations. All right, I won't get into all of that. You get the picture? So, the 10 lost tribes of the house of Israel scattered in the USA must return home to Israel. Now, I'm not saying everybody in America is from the lost tribes. What I'm saying is I believe a lot of the lost tribes came out of Europe through the Protestant Reformation, which was like a partial awakening of Israel. And they may be in some parts of the United States more than others. But the Lord's going to blow the whistle, and he's going to bring his remnant home. So, some great catastrophe and war must befall the United States in order to bring judgment upon its wickedness. We reap what we sow. And the same applies to Australia, so I'm not pointing a finger. We're in the same predicament or worse. And through this judgment cause the 10 lost tribes of the house of Israel to leave. So, hang on to your seat, Dorothy. Kansas is going bye-bye. The New World Order bad guys have been preparing for the destruction of Christian America and the destruction of the lost tribes in particular. When after World War II, Germany surrendered, Deutschland surrendered, but the Nazis didn't. And they came into America to infect a bigger nation. So the same bad guys that brought us World War II will bring us World War III. Jacob separated his camp into two halves. When he came into the land, he was afraid of his brother Esau. And he said in his heart that if Esau gets one camp, the other will survive. And they called the name of that place Mahanaim, two camps. So in a sense, in World War II, one of those camps got greatly devastated, the house of Judah. And what's coming, we may see the house of Israel greatly cut down. You couldn't save a lot of the Jews in World War II because they wouldn't listen to you if you told them to leave. And by the time they figured out they were in trouble, it was too late. The same thing's going on in Australia and in America. There's a lot of people you can't reach. No matter what you say, they're not going to listen. And they're going to go to the FEMA camps whether you tell them, whatever you tell them. They're going to believe what the government tells them. But Yeshua says, my sheep hear my voice, and the voice of a stranger will they not hear. So in a way, that inability to hear not only brings about their death, but it also separates between those that are listening and those that aren't. So the very trouble that's coming is actually to preserve his remnant and to separate those that he has lost patience with. And there comes a generation, an evil generation, when God has lost patience, when it's time to judge. And he allows the bad guys a window of opportunity to do their stuff. Why haven't the bad guys done it already? Because there's a window of opportunity that the Lord has given them. They're not in control of the universe, he is. And that's something we have to take to heart. So, all throughout America we have FEMA camps dotted everywhere for our protection. And FEMA is Federal Emergency Management something or other. Can't remember. Is it an agency? Probably. So there they are, all there for our protection. It's a sad day. When I came to America, I was amazed at how highly militarised this country is. It's a sad day, though, when you don't even trust your own military, because the guys running the show are Freemasons and occultists. But I don't fear them. I fear Yahweh. And they're going to have their day in the sun. And they're going to do what they're going to do. As I say, whip-de-doo-dah-day. My job is to listen to the Lord each and every day. And some days, when you don't have a lot to come and go on, your heart is in your hand, trembling. Because it's all by the grace of God. And there's some times that you actually discover that it's God's grace that gets us through. And it's those days that you see the face of God. Israel was at the Red Sea, and the Mitzrayim, Egypt, was bearing down on them. And they needed a miracle. And the Lord provided. So, I don't know. I sometimes say to the Father, you really love a drama, don't you? It can't be the easy way. It's got to be last minute sort of salvation. But the good thing is that's how I really see his hand, real clear. When Jacob came back into the land, I guess he was trembling. He had some things on his conscience, like how he had done some things with his brother Esau. Sure, Esau didn't love the things of God like Jacob did, but he was wondering if his brother was going to do him in. He didn't, and that was by the grace of God, because you don't come with 400 men just to have a barbecue. Esau was a soldier, and he would have sorted his brother out real nice and neat and stitched him up. But even Esau at that stage had a heart too. And by the way, there's a remnant of Edom which the Lord shall choose. So we need to love our neighbour as ourselves. Because God knows those that are his. And it's not just the house of Israel that's getting saved. There's the remnant of Esau, of Edom, and it's also all the other nations. There's a remnant of them that are called by the name of Yah. And Israel is called to be a light unto the nations. So, but now we're coming into a time when Yeshua is going to bring his wheat into his barn. He's going to bring the lost tribes home. It may be a process, and it may require some pain. So we need to have a perspective that is greater than just America or Australia, our home countries. Because these nations at some stage are going to see us leaving. And I believe that the regathering of Israel, if you study all the scriptures about them in the Old Testament, it's judgment language is going on. It's not the hallelujah chorus everywhere, but it's not all gloom and doom either. But God cuts down the leaders first because they're not speaking his truth. So if we're leaders, we need to have the fear of God, definitely. I know this is for me this is a hard subject to talk about, because I don't want people to be left with a sense of gloom. What I'm trying to say is that when God regathers Israel, it's during a time of judgment, but there's hope. And my hope is that God's house gets it together. That's why I'm giving this talk.